Could we have a motion? Is there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, could we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Do we have a seconder? Second. All in favor? Aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to very briefly, the warden's remarks that since the last meeting we had our Christmas tree lighting and the town had theirs. And I think on behalf of council, for everybody that's out watching, we'd just like to wish all of our residents a very Merry Christmas. I hope they have a great holiday, and best wishes for the new year coming from all the council here tonight. Thank you. We have a presentation. If you want to come up and I will let you, I'm going to turn your mic on. I'll let you introduce yourself, and you have the floor, okay?
Here, we won't touch it. Good evening. Thank you, councilors, for having me, giving me the time to speak tonight. My name is Ken Whelans, and I'm with the Southwest Shrine Club, which is right down the road here in the old church. And what I wanted to do is just bring you up to date on the activities of the shrine in Yarmouth and as well Nova Scotia. Just a brief history of Shriners, where they came from, where they started. Shriners were started in New York, Manhattan, New York in 1870. So they've been around for a long time. There were two Masons, Dr. Walter Fleming and Billy Florence. Billy Florence was an actor who had just attended a Northeastern themed party thrown by an Arabian diplomat, and that's where the theme for the fez and the Arabian theme comes from. The first chapter of Shriners was started in New York. They're called Mecca Shriners, and they were started in 1872. Today there are 300 Shriners in United States, Canada, Mexico, Philippines, Panama, Brazil, and Germany. So they are truly international. The Shriners were started in Nova Scotia in 1920. And as you can tell by my fez, we are the Philae Shriners. Philae was an island in the middle of the Nile River. Some of our more famous Shriners, and you'd recognize a lot of these names. John Wayne was a Shriner. Ernest Borgnine, Dave Thomas, Wendy's. Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut, Arnold Palmer, Brad Paisley, Richard Tyson, and one of our bigger Shriners, and I'm sure you would all remember this, Red Skelton. Red Skelton was a big Shriner. There are 22 hospitals that the Shriners support. And of those 22 hospitals, there's one in Canada, one in Mexico City, and the rest are in the United States. We do have access to all the Shrine hospitals, all 22. It's a special year for Shriners because the hospital that was built in Montreal in 1925 was replaced this year. On October the 6th, the first patient was accepted into the brand new hospital, and the hospital was approximately 96,000 square feet. The new hospital is 207,000 square feet big. There's 22 rooms, 4 operating rooms, and of course, I'm sure you could tell, I was very fortunate to have one of the last tours of the old hospital. It was updated once in 1984, and it was certainly time for a brand new hospital to appear on the scene. They are part of the McGill University campus, the Glen campus. So you have actually 4 hospitals. There's a Shriners Hospital on the end, the Children's Hospital, the Adult Hospital, and a cancer center in Montreal right now that are all joined together. 22 inpatient rooms and 4 surgical suites. The 22 rooms are on the Atlantic floor. Every floor has a theme from across Canada. The Atlantic floor is adorned with boats, murals of boats. The front desk is designed after a boat, a fishing boat. And there's also a floor for the Northern Territories, and the light fixtures are all ice cubes. So they've really made it child-friendly. What do we do at those hospitals? We are world leaders in brittle bone disease, cerebral palsy, spinal cord deficiencies, scoliosis, spina bifida, club feet, chest wall deformities. And you may have heard on the news that there was a child recently that had the very first double hand transplant in the world. That was performed at the Philadelphia Hospital for Shriners. And the little child was 8 years old, and everything is working fine right now. So the work that the Shriners carry out is just amazing. I had the opportunity to visit the new hospital in May of this year while it was under construction, and it is the leading shrine hospital of our 22 hospitals. Big research department. They are also leaders in hand surgery. So we had a child there that was born with what they call a banded hand, or the fingers were all together, and they actually separated the thumb from the fingers so the child could have a grasp, and then they separated the 4 fingers. That child went in when she was 4. She's now 12 years old. There was a child from Cape Breton that went there. He was born without legs, lower extremities, had to have several operations. He was a shrine child for probably about 14 or 15 years. He is now grown up in his 30s, and believe it or not, he is fitted with artificial prosthesis, and he's a tap dancer. A tap dancer. He was he's a well-known tap dancer on Broadway. And he directed the last production of Hair at Neptune Theatre. They couldn't tell he had artificial legs when he went to New York. That's how well that these things they do. Right now, the artificial limbs are being printed by 3D printers. And if a child goes to Montreal and needs an arm, they take the measurements. Overnight, they send those measurements by computer. They're printed in Philadelphia. They're sent out by FedEx that night. They're there the next morning, and the child is fitted with the artificial limb. So it's quite amazing what they're doing. And children are brought from all over the world, China, Japan, Australia, all through the Philippines. Those children go to the Honolulu Hospital. As you can see on my fez, it says Oriental Guide. I was elected to the executive of Nova Scotia PEI. It's a 5-year journey, and I'll call it a journey because every year you have a different job. So this year, as the Oriental Guide, it was a learning experience about the hospitals. So I had to go to Tampa, and my wife was invited. We went 3 days of classes, and we learned all about how the shrine hospitals are operated. So my role as the Oriental Guide in Nova Scotia is the co-chair of the hospital committee. And I'm sure you all know Dr. Chester Wyman. He's the other co-chair of the hospital committee. So any children that are applying to go to our facilities are approved by Dr. Wyman, myself, and a committee. We do have an outreach clinic in Halifax, and as we know, the healthcare is all provided by our government, but the children have to get there. So we provide transportation for the parent and the child, accommodation, meals, and if Halifax deems it necessary that the child goes to Montreal, then we pay the airfare. So, do we use it in southwestern Nova Scotia? And I can say there's been 3 children from southwestern Nova Scotia that have used the hospital facilities in Halifax this year. 2 years ago, we flew a child from the middle of Nova Scotia to the Boston Hospital, which is a burn unit. And that cost approximately $17,000 for the helicopter to take them there. Now, we're not covered for healthcare down in the States. Shriners picked up the whole bill. It didn't cost the taxpayers here anything for that. I'm very happy to report too that the hospital that was built in Montreal cost $130 million. Not one penny of government money went into that hospital. Shriners International put up $93 million, and the rest was by donation. The Nova Scotia PEI Shriners, the Filey Shriners, made a commitment of $300,000, and that was supposed to be raised over a 5-year period. I'm very happy to say we're approaching 1 million right now in donations. The Shrine is run very, very efficiently. Shrine has $10 billion in assets, all donated. We operate 38 farms, 196 oil wells. We have water rights and forestry rights. We receive $275 million a year from all those things that are operating. Unfortunately, it costs $750 million a year to operate the 22 hospitals. So it's very important that we keep raising money. And, you know, it's a daunting task. Even from our little club down here, we have about 18 Shriners. There are 1,000 Shriners in Nova Scotia. So our fundraising consists of the Fezaroo tickets, which go on sale in January, and the cash calendars. The cash calendars are not just a calendar. They cost $25, and every day there's a draw for $25. And if you win, your name goes back in the hat. Every Friday, the last Friday of the month, there's a draw for $100, and 3 times throughout the year, there's a draw for $1,000. So that is the cash calendars. That's a big fundraiser. There's only about 1,200 or 1,500 calendars printed and sold throughout Nova Scotia PEI. The Fezaroo tickets, they are $1 a piece, or a book of 10 for $5. And I'm very happy to say that our club has stepped up to the plate to run that whole campaign for Nova Scotia PEI. And the tickets are sold throughout Nova Scotia PEI by there's 14 Shrine clubs in our province here in PEI. And we all sell Fezaroo tickets. The Fezaroo tickets, the prizes are one of 3 Chryslers, a Coyote tractor, a Harley Davidson, or you can take $25,000 cash. That draw will take place at Murray Dodge on Stars Road at the end of May. So hopefully somebody from here will win, but we'll get some very good publicity out of it. We also do the Holiday Magic Show, which just took place in November at the Arc. And we also do a 50-50 draw at the Wharf Rat Rally down in Digby. So those are our major fundraisers. And of course, at our last meeting in Halifax, where the 14 clubs meet, the 14 clubs donated an additional $43,000 at that meeting from their own individual fundraising. So the the shrine is live and well, and as you can see us in the CFAS parade, we have our little fire truck. That fire truck was originally built and donated to the Yarmouth Fire Department. They used it for a while, and then it kind of got put in the closet, so to speak, and we revived that and bring it to all our parades. You all know David Hall that used to own Motor Mart. He's a Shriner, and he has one of the little mini cars, and he brings that to the parades as well. And we also have a tractor that pulls a big fez. So anyway, my purpose tonight was just to bring you up to date. I'm happy to say that at the last meeting I was elected to the next position up, which is the High Priest and Prophet, and I'm in charge of membership for the province and PEI as well. That is a daunting task. We have on average 33 Shriners a year that pass away. So it's a task just to keep the membership on an even keel. And all Shriners are Masons. Not all Masons are Shriners. So you have to be a Mason to become a Shriner. So we have a limited number of people that we can get to become Shriners. Out of that 1,000 Shriners, there are probably 6,000 Masons in Nova Scotia. There are 142 lodges, and they contribute a lot to Nova Scotia as well. As a matter of fact, this afternoon I just presented a check to the Yarmouth Regional Foundation, Hospital Foundation, for $10,000, and that was from the Masonic Foundation of Nova Scotia. That was presented through our lodge here, just down the road, and it's on in the newspaper and on CGLS. So we're very happy to be able to do that, and we're very excited that we're doing the Fezaroo draw here, that we're running the draw here, and looking forward to our new hospital. The Shriners in Nova Scotia bought a van that is used for transportation in Montreal. The Montreal Shriners are called the Karnak Shriners, and when we send a child to Montreal with their parent, all they have to do is get their bag, come out the exit, and look for the guy with the fez. There's a Shriner of the day that uses the van that we donated to pick up the kids and their parent, take them to the hotel, take them to the hospital for their appointments, and make sure they get back on the plane to go home. So it's very, very well organized, and I'll tell you, it was quite an eye-opener to see how this thing is run, especially when an organization has $10 billion in assets, and they were very smart to not sell these donations. The farms, 38 farms, a lettuce farm, an avocado farm, a wheat farm, a rye farm, and they operate those farms. So they've created jobs as well as raised money to support the hospitals. I'm very happy to say too that the Montreal Shrine Hospital has the lowest turnover of employees in all the hospitals of all of Canada. It's about 3%, and it's because they love their job, because they're dealing with kids all day long. They were all very excited because they're moving into a new hospital this year, and Shrine is on a quest to replace all the hospitals or update the hospitals. So there were, our hospital was opened up, another hospital was opened up the next weekend in Southern California. The weekend after that, a new Shrine Hospital was opened up in St. Louis. So they're keeping up with the new developments, and they've actually come out with an MRI machine. We've all seen the MRI machine at our hospital here. The MRI machine they have is for kids. Some of the kids can't lie down because of their spines and that. This is an MRI machine that they walk into. They just stand there, and it does its thing around them. So medical advances. So, it's quite a joy to see that, and quite a joy to be part of this organization. And 2019, provided things go well, I will be the potentate in that year, which means I'll be in charge of Nova Scotia PEI. There are 12 shrine temples within our region, which is northeast from Rhode Island to Newfoundland, Ottawa, Montreal, New Brunswick, Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut. Hopefully, I'll try and have my Potentate's Ball in Yarmouth. And if we can have some kind of a parade, if we can coordinate it with the Seafest, and you'd have all the units coming up from Boston. The Boston unit is quite something. They have a tractor trailer that they bring all their stuff up in. So it makes for one big parade. So, but anyway, that's my presentation, and I'd like to thank you very much for allowing me to come here and bring you up to date on what's going on in Yarmouth. So Yarmouth is using the Shrine Hospitals, and any child up to age 18 can use that facility. And we've been over to the Yarmouth Hospital to make them well aware. The pediatric doctor there is well aware. There's just some forms to fill out if it's an urgent case. The child falls and breaks their arm, they need an orthopedic surgeon. We can get them up to Halifax that day. And no cost to the parent. If they can't afford to get up there, they're going to get up there. We'll make sure of it. So, thank you very much.
Go ahead, Liam.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ken, you have time to answer a couple of questions?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. I've sat through a lot of presentations and have enjoyed every one of them. Yours, your organization internationally has done a lot for children. And when you went through your list of some of the things, and you mentioned scoliosis, 48 years ago, I went to the IWK. I had scoliosis. So I fully understand what that would mean to a child and so on. But the importance that you're playing in a child's life is miraculous. I didn't realize that your organization had the in-depth that you're doing. I didn't realize it had the assets. Didn't realize what it takes to become a Shriner and so on. But in saying that, you had mentioned that there some type of a convention or something going to be happening from Boston all the way.
Yeah, that will be there's a Potentate's Ball at every Shrine Temple. There's
Okay.
12 in our region, so in 2019 I have to go to 11 other balls
Okay.
for those Shrine temples.
Okay.
They all have to come here.
Okay.
So we'll have 12 temples, 12 potentates coming here for my ball, and they usually bring along other people, other Shriners can come, and hopefully I'll be able to have it in Yarmouth. And there's probably 50 to 100 people
Okay.
with that.
Okay. Well, I kind of take it, if I may, Mr. Chair, I kind of take it that very seldom do you go out and look for donations and so on from your very well-organized group. I realize you do go and get some sponsorships and so on.
We don't usually look for money. We're not funded by anybody. We do our own fundraising, and all the money goes to the Shrine Hospitals and for the transportation of the kids. Any money that is needed for the activities that are above and beyond, that would be a personal expense. So these 12 balls that I go to, I have to pay the airfare, the hotel room, the cost of the dinner
yourself.
out of my own pocket. So it costs a
Right.
few bucks to become
You'd be
the
dedicated.
potentate. Yeah, and just to mention too, the shrine in Yarmouth has been here probably between 50 and 60 years. The last person from Yarmouth that was on the executive of Nova Scotia PEI was the late Lofty Porter.
Oh, yes, yeah,
That was 45 years ago.
really.
So we haven't had anybody from Yarmouth for 45 years.
Well, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that you're
So
on
we're kind of getting back on the map up there, and great bunch of guys.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, as a councillor of the municipality, I like to say, we've listened to a lot of different presentations and a lot of requests and so on. And if there's, I feel as a councillor, I can't speak for my fellow councillors, but I'd be more than willing if any time you wish to come make a presentation, I'd support whatever,
Yep.
you know,
But that's good. It's good to know. Yeah.
I really do. I think
Yeah.
it's great, the work that you've done and the organization has done worldwide. And like I say, just here in Canada and so on, Ken.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Yeah. I agree with Councillor Anthony that that's great job. I just wanted to ask you, Ken, that hospital in Montreal, you say that that's a Shriners Hospital,
Yes.
but you only take care of the children, your Shriners.
Yeah.
But the hospital is more than just children, is it?
It's only children up to age 18 with the conditions that we treat, but we are also a teaching hospital. So the doctors in the children's hospital that are next door do a rotation through Shrine Hospital to learn how to operate on children
Okay.
and to deal with problems that children have. Yes, it is more than just the Shrine Hospital.
Okay.
They have a virtual training operating theater with 6 tables. It's all recorded. I believe McGill provides the cadavers. They teach how to operate.
Okay.
It's all recorded, and then there's a debrief room where they can go in, and if you're going to make your mistakes, that's a good place to make it. And that's how they learn there. And there's a 200-seat theater within the hospital for conventions, for medical conventions and that sort of thing pertaining to children, how they do the operations. When I was there, there was 2 Shrine children. One little guy was 2 years old, and he was from Colombia. They had moved to Canada. The father came for a job, and he had brittle bone disease. Every bone in his body had been broken. And he was a Shrine child, and they're certainly improving the quality of his life. The other one was she was 12 years old now, the one that had the banding. And her only complaint was that the fingers were kind of short, and on her bicycle she couldn't pull the brake in on this hand. So they printed fingers for her, 3D fingers, and now she feels like a normal child. She can pull her both brakes in. So they do miracles. It really is miracles. And I swear, if you went through the hospital there, you probably couldn't get through one floor without crying, tearing up.
What was the name of the hospital the old hospital?
Well, it was in Mount Royal. It was the Montreal Shriners Hospital.
Oh, that's the name of it?
Yeah.
It didn't have a, oh, okay.
Yeah, and one of our logos is the Shriner standing up holding the child in the crutches.
Okay.
Well,
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
statue out in the front of every Shrine hospital like that.
Because I was there in, I think it was in April, and they were moving.
Yes.
They were moving somewhere, so and I was
It's-
just wondering if it was that hospital.
Yeah, it's when you land, apparently they tell me, when you land in Montreal, that's the first thing you see out your window if you're sitting on the right side of the plane, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I can't
And,
remember. I can't remember.
It's quite spectacular, this thing. It's all geared for the kids.
Yeah.
In the main reception area, they've had hockey sticks donated and they're all lined up on the front counter, 750 hockey sticks. And that's what the front of the counter is for the main entrance. They were donated by NHL players.
Yeah.
And so it's quite a facility. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in before council and the work that you do. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, moving on to 5 on the agenda. 5.1 is a legacy project. And I'm going to move on to 5.2. Is there any upcoming events in any of your districts that you want to publicly announce, John?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to inform council that Beverly and Roy Gowdy are going to be having their 50th wedding anniversary held at the Valley and District Fire Department. It's going to be held this Sunday, December the 20th, from 2 to 4 p.m. So if anyone's out in the area, please stop by and give them some well wishes, and I'm sure they'll certainly appreciate it. So that's what's going on in my district this month. I know I missed a lot of them that were happening earlier, and I wish to apologize to anyone that may watch this, but if you do have any, please let me know and I'll certainly announce them here in council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. 5.3. Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, there's one thing, it's not a upcoming event, it's an event that takes place every Thursday night at the Pembroke Community Hall, and I'm not sure, the other councillors or people are aware, but they have a musical night every Thursday night there, and it's been an event that's been just growing like crazy. The musicians come from everywhere, they have a good time, and they play music all night from, I don't know what time, 7 till 10, I'm thinking, or 7 to 9:30, and it's huge and it's growing. And I think the Pembroke Community Hall, I think the event is probably, the hall's not going to be big enough someday because new people come from everywhere all the time. So it's a huge thing that takes place every Thursday night in my district.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also a reminder that this January the 1st, the New Year's Day levy is going to be held, I believe, here at noon hour. So I just wanted to make that, pardon me? 11 till 1. Okay, my apologies. I was wrong. I was going to be here at 12, I guess. So its start time is 11 in the morning till 1 p.m. So just a reminder of that.
5.3, you have a letter from the Yarmouth Refugee Support Group. You had a presentation 2 weeks ago, or 3 at the committee of the whole. So, Councillor.
Right. Mr. Robinson's presentation was a very, very good one. He did give us a lot of information. This is going to be important work moving forward. So, it's really important to integrate those families that come to Yarmouth into the community well. And I guess as a municipality, we should make him aware that we do have a grant process and a budget process to go to. So I guess what I'd ask is that we ask staff to contact him and make him aware of the grant proposal, and that we would consider those grant requests on a case-by-case basis, and judge the merits, I guess, on a case-by-case basis. So yeah, it's good work they're doing, and glad to have them doing that work. All the volunteers in the community, there's a long list of them, and it's important work, and I'm sure we'd like to be able to help out. And the grant process is the way to go.
Thank you. 5.4 is for your information. There's an article in the Vanguard. So we'll move on. 5.5, you have your letter of response from Service Nova Scotia, Yarmouth Land Registration Office. Was there any further discussion? We've sent it. Councillor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only response that I have was the length of time. If you look at the date when we sent it, I think it was September 23rd, and our response back from the minister was November 23rd or 24th. 2 months for them to, not that they said anything different than what we figured they were going to say, but I think two months is quite a long time to have to wait for a response. Thank you.
Thank you. 5.6, letter of response from Service Nova Scotia on proposed changes to the Liquor Control Act. Okay. Was there any further discussion from council? You have the letter of response. Okay, I'll give you a second to open it up.
Yes, I guess the letter reads that they'll be relying on a health professional to basically move forward with this. So it does say, quote, "We will be relying on their expertise." This is Dr. Robert Strang during consultation. So they're not really giving an answer, just saying that somebody's going to look after it for them. So there's no real answer to her letter. So in my estimation.
Okay, John, you can come back. I guess I see no more lights flashing, so. Moving on to new business. Request for grant funding. 6.11 is the Yarmouth Hospital Ladies Auxiliary. Go ahead.
I'll move that we move that to our grants.
Further discussion? Question being called, all in favor say aye. Contrary nay. Thank you, gentlemen. 6.1.2 Canadian Owners and Pilots Association. I guess there's an acronym for that. COPA? Would they? COPA? COPA, sorry. Do you want to forward it to? Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? All in favor say aye. Contrary nay. Thank you, gentlemen. 6.13 is Yarmouth Hospital Spring Gala. I think that was time sensitive, was it not, Liz? Okay, so go ahead, Councillor.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we support the Yarmouth Hospital Spring Gala as we had before with the purchase of a table, with the same process around assigning seats to volunteers, and that the warden or designate would go along with a guest also to the table to attend the table. I believe that's what we've done in the past, and so I'll make that a motion.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary nay. Thank you, gentlemen. 6.2 is a request for permission for a floating dock at the lighthouse. You have a letter, some information in front of you. You're on.
Yeah, I'd just by consensus, perhaps through the chair, that we ask staff to contact the folks that are wanting to put the floating dock potentially at the lighthouse, and to I guess get more information and maybe perhaps arrange an appointment with us to have a presentation to council.
Is that Well, we don't need a motion for that. I think maybe if they want to come in committee of the whole and bring us some more information, or maybe just forward you the information for council. Okay, thank you. 6.3, fire hydrant usage. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure who put this on the agenda, but it wasn't me, but it is a kind of ironic that, and I'm going to ask a couple questions. I'm assuming that this is the fire down here in Hebron, correct, with the restaurant? Yes, it was. It's kind of funny that there was a post here, and this was something that was taken off of Facebook, and the fire was right there, and they took a picture of the hydrant with a fire in clear view with the lights and of the hydrant. And it's kind of disturbing that someone posted here that that they were running tankers back and forth to the area. I do believe fire departments do have hoses to hook up to the hydrants, especially the town of Yarmouth, who would have been in control of this fire. And not only that, why would they have been shuttling back and forth with a tanker to get water when there's a river right behind them? And any fire departments that I've ever toured or been involved in also have equipment to pick up the water from the lake. And it's kind of curious to why they're shuttling back and forth. Now, I'm not here to criticize the fire department on the way that they operate. However, I do have a few questions, and I'm kind of wondering if maybe we shouldn't have a meeting. This is just a suggestion, a meeting with the town fire chief and ask him on this particular issue here, because hoses could have clearly been run from here to the trucks, or even if they wanted it closer, the river is right behind where this restaurant burned. So I'm kind of curious to why they didn't use those two water sources and did run trucks through the community with sirens blaring as this posted. So I'm not sure of the wishes of my fellow colleagues, but I think that would be a suggestion anyway.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I mean, this is on social media, and I'm not certain if you know what the reason was for not using the hydrant or using the hydrant. I don't know if what the reason would be, but in any event, it's you know, I'm not certain if we need a meeting or not. I mean, perhaps staff could contact the fire department and ask them what the rationale was, and that would sort of satisfy us as a council, unless there's some other reason for meeting with the fire chief. I'm not certain this is worthy. I'm sure they had their reasons for not hooking up to the fire hydrant, perhaps, and it'd be nice to know why they didn't, but I'm certain that they handled things appropriately. So
You're quite correct on that, Trevor. There may have been a problem with the hydrant itself, because they do a flushing every spring and fall, and there may have been a problem that was found with this hydrant that we're not aware of. However, those questions should be asked, and I do believe a letter to the Yarmouth Fire Department would suffice, and ask those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at the picture and so on, and I'm not sure the reason why. Again, I'll agree with both councillors Cunningham's. I believe, and I feel strongly, that the warden, yourself, the CAO, and possibly our Public Works person, Derek, meets with the fire chief, find out the reasoning why, and then relay that back to council. It does seem that somebody, let me put it this way, gentlemen, somebody else besides us noticed it, because he deliberately took a picture of the fire and the fire hydrant there with the fire trucks going back and forth to get water. And we pay, if I may, Mr. Chair, just under $2,000 a year per hydrant in the municipality for the maintenance of these hydrants. And if I'm not mistaken, we're just under $80,000 a year to maintain all the fire hydrants in the municipality. And I would like, as a councillor, like to know the reason why. And there is probably a good explanation, but I, as a councillor, would like to know what that explanation is. And also move that direct staff to make that meeting as soon as possible.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you. Motion carried, gentlemen. You have an email from UNSM. Did you want to speak to that, councillor?
I think we all are on the UNSM website, and the email came out for a rural caucus vacancy. I am at this time thinking of submitting my name to be able to sit in this position on rural caucus. The warden, Bruce Morrison has stepped down, so I just wanted to let my fellow councillors know that I think I'm going to submit my name. I have to have it in before the 31st, and then they're going to do an electronic vote through the email. If I do submit my name, I would really appreciate your support. It is no cost to the municipality. It is all covered by UNSM, travel, etc., and so on. And I'd like to possibly, I tried one other time, and if possible, I'd like to try it again and look for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. 6.5, Compit project. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to proceed with the purchase of property on the Rose Road, subject to a favorable outcome of the wind turbine impact analysis.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. 6.6 is an email from NS Department of Business re-broadband questions. I think that's a big issue up in the Carleton area. I'm not sure about most of the rest of the municipality, but that's free information. John, I think you probably in your district would have some input that they would like. Oh, okay.
My apologies for not answering the question. I was going to mention this. I am currently in the process of leaving a little questionnaire, and I certainly intend to send out the deficiencies, if I want to call them that. Lack of service, it would be another term, and both cell and internet service out in my district, because it's about a 50-50 split. The farther you go out, of course, the worse the service is. I do know that Bell is currently testing equipment out in the Carleton area. How far that's going to extend to, I don't know. I've sent an email off to Bell Canada to try to get some information. I have not received any as of yet. However, we all know too that we've also changed our land use bylaws to allow the inclusion of cell service or cell tower equipment in the Carleton Village zone and other areas. I do believe there was another one here in the Hebron area that we changed the land usage bylaws, and that was done last January. So we've moved forward. We've asked everything that industry has asked of us to do. Now it's time for industry to move forward in making sure that everyone gets cell and internet service, which they also deserve. And we also should note that the province had signed an agreement with Eastlink to service this area, and there's been restrictions and a big jack in the internet service price that they've been charging people out in our area. It's increased by almost $20 per month. So that's something that I'll certainly forward a letter, and when I do get the findings, I'll certainly share them with council, and we'll move forward on that maybe as a group. So thank you very much.
Any other districts having issues with the coverage? I know that's been a main issue up in the Carleton area, so. Gerard, go ahead.
Yeah, like Deerfield and the part of Brazil Lake that I'm at there, anyways, I get some calls also. And to my understanding, I thought we were supposed to get something like in the spring here, and it never came. And I'm so glad that John is doing what he's doing, finding out the answer from Bell Alliant. Thank you.
Okay. 6.7, we have some recommendations from the PAC. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I must apologize to council that I had a previous meeting that I could not attend this. However, I do see that there is two recommendations to council that's come through, and as soon as my computer will work properly, I'll make a motion. My apologies once again. My computer seems to be very slow again today. All right. I move that we recommend to rezone the portion of the property in Rockville, PID number 901-77890, the Chabot Point Road, from rural development to marine industrial.
Is that the right road, Councillor? Town Point, I
Road.
think.
Town Point Road.
Okay. You moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. Motion carried. 6.7.2 is another
Yes, there is.
PAC recommendation.
Apparently there was a zoning error in the previous land use bylaws that should be corrected. So I move that Schedule B should be corrected to assign the accurate zoning designations to PIDs number 901-54287 and PID number 901-54261. This motion is to clarify the list of permitted uses in the airport noise reduction zone. So I so move.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I'm sorry, Liz has her hand up. Yes.
If I might make a correction to that, Councillor Cunningham, I discovered today that should be Schedule C and not Schedule B. So if you want to amend that motion to say Schedule C.
Yes, thank you. It does say Schedule B here. However, you do have the latest and greatest correction, so I will amend that motion to include Schedule C instead of Schedule B.
Seconder is fine with the amendment. Okay. No further discussion. All in favor of the amendment? Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. Motion carried. You have your committee reports in front of you. If no questions, any of the representatives? I'm not sure. Do we have any committee of the whole recommendations, Liz? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move, this is a recommendation from in camera, I move that we move ahead with the paper ballots for the 2016 municipal election.
Any further discussion? Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a second motion. That motion is to use the provincial census voters list for the 2016 municipality to district of Yarmouth 2016 municipal election.
Do we have a seconder for that? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Question being called. All in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. Motion carried. That brings us to the end of business. Someone want to move an adjournment? All seconded? All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Raymond.